Hey guys, Ron Harris here. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk about the three best bodybuilders who never turned pro. Three guys who came up against some very, very tough competition in an era where pro cards were very, very difficult to come by. To give you an example, first 4 years of the NPC Nationals, 82, 83, 84, and 85, even winning the overall NPC Nationals title did not get you a pro card. You still had to go overseas, compete in the IFBB World Amateur Championships, and win your weight class up against all the best competitors from all these other countries. At the USA Championships, only the overall men's winner and women's winner got pro cards. Now it's top two in every class. North American was the same, was just the overall men's and women's winners for many years. And that was a show that wasn't just USA, it was USA, Canada, and Mexico. We did not have a lot of opportunities. NPC Nationals didn't even have as many weight classes back then. It was bantamweight, lightweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight for a long time, for 14 years. Super heavyweight class wasn't added till 98. Later on, they added a welterweight class. And later on, they let the top two from every weight class get a pro card instead of top one. So we didn't have all these divisions. It was very tough for even some amazing bodybuilders to get their pro cards, which is why we're going to take a look at some guys here. The first on the list, people bring him up all the time as someone who is better in their estimation than a lot of the pros today, especially guys turning pro as masters and classic physique. This is Matt Mendenhall. Matt was originally from Ohio. He made his national level debut at age 22 at the 1982 NPC Nationals, which was the very first NPC Nationals. Took second place to Lee Haney, who would go on to win 8 Mr. Olympia titles. Came back the next year at the Nationals, took fifth place behind Bob Paris, Rory Leidelmeyer, who we'll also get to, Mike Christian, and a guy named Jeff Williams. Sixth place at that show was Rich Gaspari in that heavyweight division. 84 Nationals, came back, took second to Mike Christian, no pro card. 85 USA, he wins the heavyweight class, but loses the overall to light heavyweight Dave Hawk. Dave gets the pro card. Matt got nothing. 85 World Games, international competition over in Europe, took second place to Barry DeMay, who would go on to have an excellent pro career and be as high as third place at the Olympia. Interestingly, seventh place in that heavyweight division there was a young Dorian Yates, who had just started competing, I think, a week or two before that, locally. 86, he came back to the Nationals, took second behind Gary Stridham, who would go on to have an excellent pro career in both the IFBB and the short-lived WBF. 87, he didn't do too great, 11th. 88, he was 10th. The final contest I want to show you is the 91 NPC Nationals, where he took fifth place in what many agree was the greatest heavyweight class we ever saw in an amateur competition in all history. He was fifth behind Kevin Levrone, Flex Wheeler, Paul DeMeo, and Ronnie Coleman. That would be the last time we would see him on stage. So he ran up against some incredibly tough competition in an era where you just couldn't get a pro card that easily. They were few and far between. So let's take a look at 91 Nationals. So this is probably the best he ever looked. Condition was iffy with him at times. Here he nailed it. I know we're not seeing the glutes and all that, but you could see structurally this guy was perfection. Super wide clavicles, narrow waist, full round muscle bellies, wasn't missing any body parts. He was very much in demand in the mid to late 80s, early 90s for magazine covers. He appeared on a lot of magazine covers, more so than most of the guys who had pro cards. And you can see why. He was about close to 6 foot tall, blonde, good-looking guy, and he just had that look. You know, he was a big guy, but it wasn't off-putting. It wasn't the type of mass where people go, ugh, that's disgusting. I would never want to look like that. I don't think anyone ever looked at Matt Mendenhall and said, I don't want to look like that. Interestingly, he was the boyfriend of the first Ms. Olympia, Rachel McClish, for a brief time, for I'm not sure how long. Don't quote me on that. Next guy I want to take a look at with you is out of California, Rory Leidelmeyer. Rory was still is a very unique guy. He's in great shape today in his 60s. Here he is at the 1983 USA Championships. Rory this is the 83 Nationals. He was second place here to Bob Paris. He beat Mike Christian. He beat Matt Mendenhall. He beat Rich Gaspari, Ron Love at this show. He had a very classic look to him, as you can see, just small joints, round muscle bellies, very symmetrical and shapely. And he was a master poser. He reminds me of guys like Frank Zane, Bob Paris, Ed Corney, Francis Benfato, Bob Paris. Puts a lot of time and effort into his posing. Every pose is perfectly thought out and executed. The transitions, so dramatic. You certainly weren't bored watching a Rory Leidelmeyer posing routine. I actually feel bad that I never had the chance to see Rory compete because he was a unique specimen. 84 Nationals, he took 5th. 86 Nationals, he was 6th. He did beat Gary Strideman and Mike Quinn in that show. 87 USA, he would take 9th. 88, he returned to AAU where he had started competing originally, won the tall class. And the last time we would see him on stage was the 1994 NPC Nationals. Yeah, he trains out of Whittier, California, a place called Uptown Gym that I was able to visit and train at a couple times when I lived in LA. Very strong opinions, Rory. You know, he did not like when the sport took that direction toward mass and the bellies started getting big. We saw bubble guts. He was always one who was into bodybuilding for the artistry of it. He saw it as more of an art form than a sport, and I think that's fairly obvious from the way he presents himself here. This is not a brute. This is not some guy who just gets up there and hits a couple most musculars and puts his hand to his ear to get the crowd hyped up. He was really very, very serious about his art form, as you can see. So I want to take a look for a brief second at his Instagram because there's some other pictures there that I want to share with you guys. Okay, so let's take a look at. Careful with the ones with the movies because those are actually just intros to training stuff. Yeah, because he grew his hair out. He's got long hair now. But this is one of the most famous pictures we've ever seen of Rory, taken by the late Joe Valdez. Yeah, I mean, this is on par with the Mr. Olympia physiques that were winning in the era of Frank Zane, Chris Dickerson, Samir Bannout. Had he been a pro in that time, I think it's conceivable that he could have been Mr. Olympia because that was a brief period in the sport where lighter guys with perfect symmetry and conditioning and presentation were dominating, like the aforementioned guys I was talking about. There's a great shot. Shows you how skilled he was as a poser. So here's another shot. This was from later on. I believe this was in the 90s. Yeah, it says circa 1991 in Whittier, California. Just an amazing physique. I know this is not the greatest quality. It's a little grainy looking. But Rory was he was one of a kind. Still in fantastic condition. There he is with the hair growing out. He's a official. What is this? Rory Leidelmeyer official is his Instagram, and he's still giving great workout advice, all kinds of stuff. I'm not sure how old he is. He's in his 60s. I'm 54. I know he's at least 6 years older than me. So yeah, we never really got to see him on a pro stage, and I think it's a shame. I think he would have done pretty darn well. So, all right, let's stop that screen. Okay, we got one more guy, and this is the third member of the trio that we talk about, Edgar Fletcher from Pennsylvania. Let's take a look at Edgar. I showed this to my son, who could not believe this was not good enough to turn pro. He attempted many times. 1990 NPC Nationals, he was second place. Right behind him in third was Ronnie Coleman. Came back the next year, 91 Nationals, that same class that we've been talking about, that Kevin Levrone won. So he was ninth place behind, what a cast this was. Kevin Levrone, Flex Wheeler, Paul DeMeo, Ronnie Coleman, Matt Mendenhall, Bob Chickarolo, and Chris Cormier. Those are the guys that beat him. Every single one of them was a pro. And, with the exception of Paul, whose career was cut pretty short, they were very good pros. 1992 Nationals, he came back, took third behind Chris Duffy and Bo Matlock, another guy who was pretty amazing and never turned pro. 93 Nationals, third place behind Mike Francois, Dennis Newman. 1994, fourth place of the USA behind Dennis Newman, Craig Titus, and Phil Hernan. Also took fourth at the North American that year, 94. 95 Nationals, he was third place behind Don Long and Tom Prince. 96 North American, third. 1996 USA, third place behind Craig Titus and Tom Prince. We only saw him a couple more times, and he wasn't quite as great. 97 USA, he was 15th. 2000 Nationals, he was 10th. But gosh, look at the size and the shape, the biceps, the triceps, the chest, not lacking anything. Full round muscle bellies, great separation, great structure, small waist. He was just up against some amazing talent. It was the 90s was a tough era. If this doesn't prove it, I don't know what does. We had guys like guys that couldn't win the Olympia, like Sean Ray, Flex Wheeler, and Kevin Leveroni, because the pro level of competition was so deep in the 1990s. Even the amateurs were so difficult at that time that you couldn't turn pro unless you were just that outstanding or that lucky. I don't know, man. Yeah, these were three men who all rightfully should have been pros. I don't like knocking the current pros, and people are turning pro now. It's a different era we live in now. There are far more opportunities to turn professional, more divisions to choose from. Back then, it was just bodybuilding. So these guys are legendary. The fact that they never turned pro, it's a shame, but it is what it is. And, true fans of the sport, they know exactly who these guys are and have a deep appreciation for how good they really were. And that was an era where the top amateurs were almost as famous, sometimes more famous than most of the pros, because the amateur level was so deep and so talented. We had some amazing guys who were amateurs. This goes to show these are three guys who never left the amateurs. They never moved on to the pro league. So hope you've enjoyed this, guys. If you like what you've seen, please, it doesn't cost you a thing to subscribe, like, share, ring that notification bell. Really helps me out. And of course, if you're on Instagram, like everyone else, follow me at Ron Harris Muscle. Appreciate all that stuff. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to keep on doing these. Give me more requests, more ideas. I'm always open to suggestion, guys. I'm here for you. Wouldn't have a channel without you. And appreciate each and every one of you out there watching. So that's it. Thanks for watching.